So wait for these sort of levels. And by the way, you've got to pat yourself on the back. Although I think we'll probably have spike downs, pat yourself on the back if you can get your lion's share of your pot in around these levels. Okay. What I'm saying here is for the bottom pickers. It's worth, if you can get 80-90% of your pot in at the levels, you are the king. And if you can leave 10% of your pot just to have a little, little punt, if it does drop lower, even better.
Siam, how do you square point 3 with, the increasing recognition that the recession in the UK is going to probably last over a year unless something miraculous happens? In the US, the general feeling seems to be that things are going to go sadly wrong there over the next 2 years under the present regime, despite their well-intentioned doing this, that and the other. Wouldn't that then eventually depress the markets in American world, therefore worldwide, to a level that really is going to mean that crypto becomes of very little value because people simply aren't risking money in that when they can't even risk it in their more traditional ways?
Yeah, and to add to your point, we have never ever been in a period where the US currency supply has fallen. Adding to your bearishness there, I completely get it. So the answer is yes. From a macro fundamental point of view, everything is against Bitcoin, right? M2, all of the recession, even Elon says we won't be out of this recession/depression until 2024. He is literally the best market timer ever. And by the way, I think Elon knows about base support breaches, because what has he just done? Whoopsie. Elon has just sold a big chunk of his personal stash around here. He saw the base support breach. And yeah, anyway. So going back to your point, wait, one sec, I need to finish off Chris's point first. What my answer to that is, get in as best as you can over here, and you can always sidestep later. So fill your bags, 80-90% of the pot in at these levels, and be prepared for a subdued bounce. And so when I talk about a subdued bounce, I'm talking about, if we get to the Bitstamp one here, go to the weekly, and then go to the log. Okay, we can see things better. Right. So this market low, this capitulation 2018 to getting past this sort of bollocks, this is the best part of 4 months or so. So we bottomed, big old face ripping rally, come back down again, then up and down, up and down, up and down. This is a weekly chart, don't forget. And it was really only 4 or 5 months later the market really started actually reversing. Okay, not pulling back. This was a reversal. Again, we had the same thing over here. This, if I move this, you can see there's a wick down here. Similar sort of times, we had, midterm elections, and then the market dumped. It dumped hard until actually January. But what did the crypto then do? It did nothing, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, until really it was about here we actually saw a proper reversal. So December, we basically entered this accumulation phase for a year. So if Elon is correct, and all of the other bearish macro fundamentals are also correct, it means that, yeah, we can actually fill our boots in around here, and just, as I said, don't go spot long. Don't go levered long just yet. You just buy your bags as low as you can and sit tight, knowing there's potentially going to be fanning around for a while. And when we're out of, base, some sort of necklines are breached, blah, 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 then we can start looking at going mega long. But here's the thing. If we can get in on some, let's say something like this happens this month, or November, December, January time, and this wick, let's say this wick down here is, I don't know, $8,000 Bitcoin, and up here is $13,000 Bitcoin. Like, if we can sort of get in around here, even if we have to just sit on our bags for a while, it doesn't matter, because the market will rebound, and it'll tend to rebound a lot higher than these lows, if that makes sense. So my answer to you is still gun for these prices, fill your boots. If you can sidestep, and let's say it's obvious that the market's, ETH is going to go from $1,000 down to $400, whatever. Yeah, you could sidestep a bit. Because at this point here, you don't care about the monetary value of your portfolio. You care about the quantity value of your portfolio. So let's say you filled your boots in ETH at, I don't know, 1,000, and you've got 10 ETH, but you have you see a 90% chance of it dropping to $500, let's say. You could sell your 10 ETH, and yes, you're going to take a bit of a loss in terms of dollar value. But if you can then start buying at lower values and end up with 13 or 15 ETH, then great. So remember, your portfolio value is all about the amount of tokens you have when you start sidestepping like this. Which is why, so at the moment, I only care about the amount of tokens I can get my stinky hands on. I don't really care about the monetary value, because the monetary, this is what I'm trying to educate my egg holders at the moment, because over the next 6 months, the equity value of the eggs are most likely going to be garbage. Just by the way, they're most likely going to be garbage, because I'm obsessing about the quantity of tokens, because now is the time to be obsessed with the quantity, because when we start the reversal, getting an extra 20% tokens or an extra X amount of tokens, you'll start seeing the fruits of that labor during the reversal, if that makes sense. And to take things into the limit, to with the extremes of critical thinking, let's say your portfolio down here is 10 ether, you can sidestep it because it looks horrible, and you end up with 15 tokens, and by doing some little sidesteps over a few months or whatnot, you've gained an extra 5 ETH. Well, in the limit, let's say ETH is going to go to $15,000. All of a sudden you've made 5 times 15,000, whatever that is. My math is shit. 15 times 5, $75,000. So your $75,000 profit trades here you won't see until in the future. So all I care about is units now, not the dollar. Oh, sorry, Annabelle, I interrupted you. I just had to answer Chris's question.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I was saying somebody, I think this week or something, about Elon's trading and what have you. And they were saying that you can't just sell loads of company stock. You've got to have reason for it. They can't just trade their own stock like that, because that's insider trading. Or is that not right?
You can sell whenever you want. You have to basically, so in the US, you have to fill out shitloads of forms with the SEC and say, at this point in time, I'm going to be selling blah, blah, blah. So Elon would have, so I was being a little bit facetious, and now I think about it, Elon would have had to put in that request to sell his stuff far in advance. So he
Okay, so he hasn't just sold when it's got base.
No, he hasn't. Sorry, I've just now I think about it. Yeah, he would have made this long in advance. But don't forget when, November. He actually put out a tweet. I don't know if Adam can remember. He literally said, I forgot what he said, but he literally called the top around November last year, and that's when stocks also basically peaked. Around here, January time, and he's been bearish ever since, and he's been regularly selling stuff. I actually think his acquisition of Twitter, part of that was to do with, he needed a reason to sell huge amounts of Tesla. I guess it all meshes in. There's not one single answer for shit, but
okay, cool.
Right, let's get back to this point 4. Don't trade. So for most people, just don't trade. Just wait and do the spot acquisitions. I think we've talked about that in enough. 5, don't lock up anything. If we've learned anything from all of these big things going bust, from UST to Luna to FTT, whatever, don't lock stuff up. You're just going to get hurt. Just like there's loads of Solana that's been locked up for a while, and they're now supposedly coming out of lock. Just don't lock it up. Which also means that as much as I'm a big fan of staking, I think I may actually pause a tick before I stake stuff. I want to see that a lot of the stuff is out of dodge before we start staking. Or if there are ways that you could do liquid staking, try that maybe. But yeah, I want to stake, but I just want to wait until, like, we're in the middle of the hurricane right now, literally. Which actually doesn't make sense, because the center of the eye of the hurricane is actually very calm and peaceful. It's the it's the edges of the hurricane which are forceful. Anyway, so avoid CEXs as best as you can. So centralized exchanges. It loathes me that I've had to put some Tether, or now Binance USD, onto Binance. I really don't like that. But if there's one centralized exchange that's most likely not going to go bust anytime soon, that's Binance. I'm sure other people maybe disagree with that, but I think Binance is probably the safest centralized exchange right now. And you want to basically just be in and out. So, as I said, I'm expecting some sort of cycle low this November. So I want to get my ETH and then bugger off. Get my ETH onto my Trezor and then sit tight for a bit. And then once I've got the ETH, I may then look at, if I'm going to sidestep, maybe doing that via GMX. Maybe. The cool thing with GMX is that you don't get slipped. You do not get slipped. So for example, if we're looking at ETH and then you look at GMX, they take an oracle and they give you a rough oracle price. So the price here, so if we go to swap, if I wanted to swap 10,000, whether it's 10,000 or a million, it doesn't matter. Let's say 1,000 or 10,000 worth of Tether for ETH. The price they're going to give me is 316, right? It's okay. Let's do Binance. It's 320. So it's a $5 slippage by the looks of it, but you will get filled. Even if I put 10 million, or if it depends if they've got enough in their pool. But if I wanted to buy, say, $1 million worth of ETH, I would get literally all of that price at 1320. So you have to weigh it up. What's going to cost the most? But I think I probably may do it on. I just don't. I want to get out of CEXs fast.
So just ask you a question, Stuart. So how long are you prepared to leave it on there? Are you going to sort of keep moving it backwards and forwards to the wallet, or are you going to keep it on there for a week or so? Or how's that?
At the moment, as best as my mental model now says, I want to be completely off centralized exchanges by the end of November.
But until then, you're happy to sort of keep it on Binance?
Yeah, in BUSD for now.
Yeah.
All right. Not the whole pot is in there, by the way. It's a chunky amount, but it's less than 50% of the pot for sure.
Right.
But again, I don't like it. But it's I did the maths. So I took my whole pot, and I thought, right, if I was to put my whole pot in ETH right now, and then I compared it between the price of Binance and GMX. I think Binance won just because they got way more liquidity, if that makes sense. But for smaller amounts, I think it'll be alright on GMX.